fifth graders. Welcome to another video cast science lesson. Today we're going to be talking about metals and alloys. Yeah, I got gum in my mouth. It's pretty juicy. It's excreting in my mouth right now. All the juices. Alright, first thing we need to talk about here, metals, okay? Metal is a substance that is a good conductor of heat and electricity. What we talk about when we're talking about a conductor, like a train conductor, that means it can carry heat and electricity really well. Like a train conductor carries people, in some sense. Metal is a good conductor of heat and electricity. That's why your telephone wires, your TV wires, the pots and pans in your kitchen, that's why they're made out of metal, is because they can take the heat from your stove and the electricity can go down metal wires really well. You don't see cables or wires or pots and pans made out of cloth. Why? Because cloth is not a very good conductor of heat and electricity. It doesn't carry it very well. And you want the pots and pans to get really hot. You want the electricity to flow really well down the metal wire. Okay? So that's what a metal is. It's a good conductor of heat and electricity. You can see here the electricity is being absorbed really well by this metal chunk here. And the heat is being absorbed really well by this metal piece there, if you're looking in your notes. Conductivity, I basically kind of just mentioned that. Conductivity lets electricity flow through really easily. It carries it very easily, like the train conductor example, alright? Let's slide over to the other side of the whiteboard here, shall we? Okay. Alloys, down here. Pretend like this is a chunk of alloy. Alloys are not pure elements. They're made up of pure elements, but because they have more than one kind of element in it, it's not a pure. It's made up of three rather than just one kind of element. Because it's made up of three kinds of elements, it's not a pure element. What I mean by pure element is that a pure element is only made up of one kind of element. But an alloy is not a pure element because it's made up of three elements. Okay? So you have metal X and metal Y, and you have a non-metal all mixed together that makes up this rock here. So this is called an alloy. An alloy is made up of two different kinds of metals and a non-metal. Okay, so that's why it's called an alloy. Like I was mentioning before with the cloth, cloth is not a very good conductor of heat and electricity. That's why it's called an insulator. Okay, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's called the Terminator because he stops things. In the same way, the insulator, it stops heat and electricity. Okay, not perfectly or not completely. Like your shirt still gets warm on a hot day. Plastic does. So it does conduct heat and electricity a little bit, just not very good. Okay? So cloth, rubber are called insulators. That's why the handle of your cooking pots are made up of rubber. That way when you touch it, you don't burn your hand because the rubber stops the heat and electricity from getting to your hand. Or the rubber that surrounds your electrical cables. It's surrounded by rubber so that you don't get electrocuted because the rubber stops the electrical flow from getting to your hand. So those are called insulators because they stop heat and electricity. And the last real thing here is you need to know some characteristics about metal. Alright? They're malleable. Malleable means that metal can be hammered out into flat sheets. Okay? Like your car hood is basically a flat sheet. It was pounded and hammered into a flat sheet, and that's called malleability, okay, or malleable. Ductile means that the wires can be, that metal can be rolled up into little wires. That means it's ductile. Metal can be made into thin strings like wires. Thin. One of my students is making fun of me. The last characteristic of metal is that metal can get corroded. And that basically means like some chemical reactions are happening to the metal, like rust. Rust weakens metal. It makes it not as strong. So metal can get corroded. Okay, and that basically, like I already said, chemical reactions that weaken it. After a while, the metal continues to get rusted and rusted. After a while, you could just like break the metal because it gets so weak from the rust. I think that's pretty much it for metals and alloys. I hope you've enjoyed this video cast. If you have any comments or questions, you can contact me on Edmodo or Facebook, and you know, all the other different ways I've mentioned in class. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope it helps you on your test, and I'll see you tomorrow at school.